So if you can all see, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Omondi is the one with the bridge behind him. And just before I introduce him, let me first of all thank all of you for joining us today. My name is Mike Kipkorir. I am one of the people responsible for the CBC app. We'll tell you just a bit more about the CBC app, but the thing that we do, our company name is called Verb Education. But the thing we do is we focus purely on teachers and schools. We don't have anything with students at all. Our focus is on teachers and schools. We really aim to try and support teachers with training and also support teachers with tools that they can use, such as the app that we'll be showing you about later. Now, in our interaction with teachers, we know there are very many challenges around the implementation of CBC. And we also know that there's a lot of knowledge amongst teachers and skills about the implementation of CBC. So we wanted to see if we could try and create an avenue where we could share online with one or two of us together so that we can all try and improve one another. And today is one such session where we have a very good teacher who is going to try and help talk us through CBC in upper primary. So specifically the English language at the upper primary levels of grade 4, grade 5, grade 6. Wanted to make them very specific like that, so that we are focusing on the skills that are needed in those specific areas you apply, other than just talking about CBC generally. The talk about CBC generally is something that we do all the time. We've attended very many trainings, but I think it's now time we got a bit more specific so that we can see how it goes. So I really thank all of you for joining. I really hope we can all participate after a few minutes of a presentation where we can all join in with questions and things like those. So please be on standby so that you can join in with questions. I can see Mr. Advent Hill School Principal, you're saying you can hear us, even though your sound has a problem. No problem, asante sana. It's good you can hear. And if we have anything, we can chat within the comments or raise your hand or something like that. But let's allow our presenter to go full on. So allow me then to introduce our presenter. So Mr. Omondi, ukirudi kwa camera, very good. So our presenter is called Mr. Omondi. And my suspicion is that you should know him because he has been the top English teacher in the country for several years running. He's a very good teacher from Kabarak Primary School, Moi Primary School, Kabarak. And he is very experienced, has taught the language for over 14 years. And he's produced, and he consistently has produced very good KCPE results, which I also assume translates to people who can actually use the English language effectively. And so I hope that Mr. Omondi can today impart to us some knowledge on the implementation of the English language in CBC. Just to confirm, am I breaking up a lot? Can you all hear me, or there's a problem with my sound? Lexi, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you clearly. You're not breaking up.
Okay, Mr. Odiambo, maybe the connection will come through after some time. Okay, so Mr. Omondi, please, the floor is yours. Introduce yourself, and after you've introduced yourself slightly, I hope I've done some justice to you in terms of introduction. Titus can then proceed to share the screen. So, Mr. Omondi, tafadhali, a few minutes, watu wakujue vizuri, and then we can continue.
Thank you so much, Mike. Here we are. I want to believe I'm loud and clear.
Loud and clear.
For those who do not know me, I'm Mr. Omondi. I think Mike has added more adjectives than I could have added. But fair enough, that is who I am. I've been a teacher of English, I think 14 years running or 15 years. Of course, I've been teaching KCP class English, and to this point at the moment, I have a CBC class. Now, going forward, there's really nothing much about me besides the fact that I am a teacher, experienced, and I've done everything English. For those who have managed to watch the Kenya National Spelling Bee, one of the brains behind it. So if you got an opportunity to watch Akili TV or KTN when we were there with the TV 47, you'll realize that I was the content developer. So I've done lots of things which are basically aimed at improving English in this nation of ours. Otherwise, this moment, I want to believe I'm going to be speaking to teachers. And for that reason, I'll not speak to you. I will speak with you. Therefore, being a facilitation, Mike, I hope we shall learn together. Thank you, and I think I'm ready.
Asante sana, Mr. Omondi. Titus, you could begin sharing the screen, and Mr. Omondi, take it from here. I'll turn off my camera and interject if required.
Very well, Mike. Thank you so much. Colleague teachers, here we are. Welcome to this station. It is a short course for teachers. Here we are going to learn some of the pedagogical approaches. We talk of pedagogy as a teaching method. Here we have CBC. How best can we handle CBC so for the sake of our learners and the development of English in this new field of us in Kenya. Here going, CBC teaching guide in primary. Upper primary in this case will encompass grade 4, grade 5, and grade 6. The first question that comes is what? Colleague teachers, I know this is a question that has been there for quite some time. We are not going to be in a position to have it exhausted. Kindly mute someone. We're going to have this one exhausted. But the common aspect and the agreement that we all have to accept is that CBC turns education system from the teaching to learning. We have been in a classroom. Some of you have been there longer than I have been. Others have been there for a shorter period compared to what I have. But we can all agree that teaching was what it was. At this point now, and our concern will be learning. So CBC will shift education from teaching to learning. Now, 844 had been reduced to a chalk and talk, where the teacher was the center of learning and the learning was directed to the teacher and by the teacher. In this case, we had the cases of learners just being as good as their teachers were. Now, CBC is here now to make a shift out of that. So, a case of practical knowledge and the store capture of knowledge that has existed is what CBC aims to take off our shoulders. And that is why we all have to agree that practical learning and application of knowledge, a move from chalk and talk, is the reason we have to shift to CBC as opposed to what we have had initially. Good. Now, my concern will be about upper primary English. I am going to share what has worked for me. One thing that Mike said is that personally as a teacher, I want to admit that God has been gracious to me since the beginning of my teaching. Some point, not once, not twice, not 3 times. Madam Jane, thank you. I have been at a point where I've excelled as a teacher in 844 system, teaching primary English at KCP level, being the best in Kenya for several occasions and being among the best, if I was never the best, up to this point. And this has only been so because I've been applying some of the methods that are now set to be used with CBC. And that's why personally as an individual and a teacher of English, I attribute my success to some of these methods that we are going to share here. Methods which are purely learner-centered. Methods which take learning from the teacher and throw the learning process to the learner. Now, here is the first case. We are going to talk about the essence, the themes, our consideration, and lastly, the pedagogy or the teaching approach that we are going to apply. Colleague teachers, walk with me in this journey because we are learning helping one another so that we become better teachers and improve the language in the nation and at our own levels, at our own environments as teachers. So starting with the essence first, why do we have to tie all these to English? Question number one, and this one we borrow it from the curriculum design that we have for CBC in Kenya. Number one, it is an open thing that English is a major language of information, education, trade, diplomacy, and social networks in Kenya and beyond. English, again, is the international communication tongue and the most common foreign language. It is the dominant language in science and technology, the internet, the travel world over. And in Kenya, English is the official language and medium of instruction from grade 4. It is also not lost to us that English in schools is both a subject and a service language. What do I mean by subject and a service language? As a subject, we teach English grammar, we teach comprehension, of course, we teach creative writing. English as a subject, and that's what we are going to do today. And then English is also a service language. In that case, it is the medium of instruction in all learning areas with the exception of Kiswahili. Apart from Kiswahili, all other learning areas are executed in English. Now, doesn't this ring it that English is one of the most important areas of learning that we have in our schools and beyond? Besides being a subject, remember, it is a service language that teachers teaching science and technology and all other language learning areas peg their success on English and comprehension by the learners that is done in English. So teachers of English, the shoulder is there on us. We carry the school, we carry the learning process. Thank you. Moving forward, let's go to the themes. Before I shift to CBC 844, the curriculum system of 844, English too had been arranged in themes. And even in CBC, our English language is designed in a way that we revolve around the themes. The themes in English are spiral in nature. They start at a lower level and they expand as we move steps higher. We start from grade 4. Look at the first theme we have in grade 4, the family. Now, moving to grade 5, we have child rights and responsibilities. And then we go to grade 6, where we talk of child labor. Now, Akin Luke will note and tell you that there is a relationship between all these themes. Now, all the themes we have in grade 4 and grade 5. Now, Titus, if you go back a little while, it will be noted that if you look at the 13 themes we have in grade 4, the 13 of them in grade 5 and grade 6, the connection is there and open. That when we talk of all the themes, 13 as they are, it is only the first theme, that is the family, the children, the child rights and responsibilities in grade 5 and the child labor in grade 6 that has a slight variation. But the variation is not far because it is an advancement. When we talk of the family in grade 4 as the beginning of the themes or the topics that we have in that case, moving to grade 5, we have child rights and responsibilities. What is the connection between the family and child rights and responsibilities? It is very clear. Children are found in the family, which is the basic family, which is the basic social unit. And then moving to grade 6, we have child labor. Child labor will be advanced from the children's rights that we had in the previous class that was in grade 5. Going to theme 2, for instance, you are going to see we have got celebrations. In grade 4, we talk of family celebrations, we talk of the weddings, we talk of the birthdays and the family celebration. Moving to grade 5, we talk of national celebrations, the Madaraka Jamhuri days and all those others. Then moving to grade 6, we have cultural and religious celebrations. This is a case where we have the Christmas and all those other items. So what do we have in this case? From grade 4, grade 5, and grade 6, in that spiral aspect, these things are interconnected. That when you move from theme 4, which is accident in grade 4, you go to road accidents, that is in grade 5. And we have accident and emergency response in grade 6. You have got a sense of continuity because this thing is a progression in move. So all of our English items are arranged in the themes which are connected in the upper primary. So for a teacher, we have to ensure that we tie to the themes, develop them, and move them as we move steps ahead. The family, child rights and responsibility, child labor in that case. We have the farm, you can see in grade 4. Then we have the farm that is under cash crops. In grade 4, we are simply talking about the farm, the garden, the farming, the crops and all that. When we move to grade 5, under the farm, we have cash crops. And then going to grade 6, under the farm, we have animal safety and care. So you can notice the connection between the themes, and our teachers are set to tie to these themes to the end of it, so that by the end of the primary education, when we are doing grade 6, learners are in a position to sustain English and have a connection of what it is. Do you know why? All the examination and assessment form is only based on the themes that we do in our primary education. Good. Moving forward, we can move to another aspect. So from the themes and their connection, Titus, if we move ahead, here we have performance and competence. Remember at that point, just a few minutes ago, we talked about the essence of English. Some of us who have gone ahead to do linguistics, step higher, will tell you the story of Abraham Noam Chomsky, who came up with the performance and competence of English. Noam Chomsky is actually the father of the current linguistic aspect. And Chomsky talked of performance and competence in English. In his case, he had them to be vis-a-vis. There was a competence versus performance. In our case, for us to realize our purpose as the teachers of English, we will not pit performance against competence. We shall only achieve more by having performance and competence achieved in our learners. What is the difference between performance and competence? Just for the sake of knowledge for one of the teachers or for some of us, performance of language entails the use and application of language, while competence is simply the knowledge of the rules of the language. We have a case of a learner who knows how to punctuate a word. We have a case of a learner who knows the correct spelling and the difference between principal and principal with A, apart from the homophonal presentation. But now performance is where we are going to have a child applying the language. There are possibilities that we have learners who can be language competent, but cannot perform in language. In that case, given a text to write, they will excel. But given a text now to perform the language in a form of self-expression, they fail. And that is when teachers come in. Our purpose is to ensure that we attain competence and performance in expression. Why is it important? It will lead to the realization of the national goals of education. It is also the link to the global community and the door to the worldwide information network. It is important in the interaction and personal development of an individual child. And finally, it helps one to develop practical application of language, both orally and in written context. Moving forward, we have a summary of the essence. Now, summary of the essence in this case is just to relate it to what is the connection when we have the consideration of this essence through the grades. In grade 4, English is considered a bridge from the lower primary to the upper primary. In grade 5, English is considered a foundation building for academic excellence and performance of the learners. And in grade 6, beside the fact that it is the final level of a primary education, remember, English prepares learners for a higher level, that is the junior secondary education. So in short, in all aspects, moving through the grades, English is very important. And the way it is designed, we start with the structural, simple bit of it in grade 4 to bridge and make a transition of learners from the lower primary to the upper primary. In grade 5, we build the case and have the structural introduction of the aspect. And in grade 6, English is meant to move us to a higher learning area. Remember, from grade 6, we move to the junior secondary education. We are moving on. Important considerations. Back to class. As a teacher, I remember telling you that the approaches I have been using long before the advent of CBC were child-centered, and the same approaches that are now recommended for the correct or the actual realization of the excellence in CBC. What are some of the important considerations as a teacher? When teaching English, it is very important to check the varied levels of the learner's ability. Whatever pedagogical method or approach you're going to use, how is it going to affect learners? We get to know as teachers that all our learners are not of the same level. So it is first a consideration for us to achieve all our purpose. Number 2, available learning resources. I teach at Moi Primary School, Kabarak. For those who know, Kabarak is one of the schools that can afford quite a number of some of these resources. But there are some of us who have not been lucky to be in schools that can afford all that. Therefore, availability of learning resources is a big difference depending on the environment where one is and how the gap will be bridged, creativity and innovation of our teachers. Time and space. All the approaches, there are approaches which will take longer time and consider the time available. Cooperative learning will take more time than inquiry method of instructional presentation. So it is advisable to consider the time and the space available. If you have fewer learners, probably it will direct and deter and guide your choice of the instructional method that you're going to use. Now, teachers should also utilize the teaching resources. And when I'm talking of teaching resources, I mean the teacher's guide, I mean the curriculum design, because there is always a guide on what should be taught to what level. There are some topics which are just introduced, but the guide is given by the curriculum design and the teacher's guidebooks on to what level we're supposed to use this. So colleague teachers, let us not overlook the importance of teacher's guide and other professional documents. Thank you. Yes, language emanates from the 4 language skills. We have listening, we have speaking, we have reading, and we have writing. All topics, all strands, whatever concept we are set to teach, should always be presented in a case that it brings out all the 4 language skills. So learners, through their interaction and collaboration with the others, should listen to one another and develop listening skills. After listening, learners are encouraged to speak out. In my class, all learners speak. I do have other language activities that ensure that we have to hear the sound and the voice of all the learners. So involving learners in a speech and let them speak in your class is very important because it is one other skill that we have to develop. Reading of text and the instructions, reading of the exercise given by the teachers will no doubt develop reading skills. And finally, learners must write as we learn. Even in oral lessons, there are cases and possibilities where you're going to find where learners are going to write, because it is very, very important. So let us always remember that our lesson should have all the 4 language skills. There we move. I'm going straight now to pedagogical approaches or the teaching methods. Colleague learners, colleague teachers, remember we are learning and we are teaching, because they say learning is lifelong. Even some of us in this field, we continue learning as we facilitate and help others to learn. A case of discovery will be that there are very many teaching methods. We have got different pedagogical approaches, but I'm going to base my discussion in only 4, which I feel are apt, prompt, and actual in use in line with the CBC approach. Number 1, student-centered learning approach. Number 2, we have inquiry-based. Then we have flipped classroom and cooperative learning. Remember, it is very important, it is very possible to have all these learning approaches integrated and used together. And teachers, for us to realize the best, it is possible to have all these ones incorporated and integrated for us to realize the maximum possibility of our achievement. Let's see, student-centered, for example. Now, this is one basis of CBC base. The focus is on the student rather than the teacher. And in English, always ensure that all the 4 language skills are developed. Remember, in this case, students or learners in our level will play more important and more active role in the learning process, while the teacher is simply the moderator and the guide. The teachers will create a sense of responsibility to ensure that the environment is enabling for the learning process, and the lesson has to be interesting. Let teachers encourage free will. Let learners talk. Let learners make mistakes and learn through the process. And the teacher should motivate attempts. However feeble the attempts are, motivate the attempts. It is because we move from a state of not knowing to a state of knowing. And this one is one important approach that we have to employ. Involve learners in the learning process. For instance, this one is the basis of how I have been teaching my punctuation. I always ensure that learners know why, how, what, and where. And for them to know this one, there are questions I throw to them. Why this? How do we do it? What do we need? Where do we have it? For example, colleague teachers, I have 2 examples there of punctuation. In grade 4, we normally do the use of capital letters, but I'll require us to have this direct speech just for our learning method, because it is applicable across all punctuation marks. Stop jokes, mother shouted. The girl said the boy is the thief. In this case, I have 2 different sentences. My questions to my learners will be, which concepts do we test here? Let the learners identify that we are testing punctuation. And that is not enough. What punctuation marks do we need? They will get to know that this is a case of direct speech, and therefore we need speech marks. Besides that, where in particular do we have to insert the speech marks? And the learners will point out. But that is not the end of it. How are we going to do it? It will develop the writing skill at the same time. It makes us know where the learners are. And finally, why do we have the specific question marks we are using, the commas, and the speech marks? that case, let the learners find out. Let them make an attempt. They will get it. If they fail to get it, it is the work of the teacher to help them get it. But in the end of it, remember, if you involve me, I learn better than if you tell me. Because the best teachers show and involve the learners after demonstrating. Let the learners be the part. Because if you involve me, it sticks better. Thank you. Moving forward, we have a different learning style. This is an inquiry-based learning approach. Inquiry-based approach can be used with the student-centered, with the student-centered learning approach. It can be used with all others. But the most important thing is that it's going to cut across. As a teacher, before having any item or any concept of language to be taught in class, the first bit of it is the inquiry. It is a common assumption that teachers know more, but the case is these learners do have existing knowledge. Through inquiry, we get to know what the learners know, what the learners do not know, what the learners need to know, and to what level do the learners have to know what they need to know. So learning is question-driven. And remember, this one cuts across all methods of learning. Because even if we are going to do cooperative learning aspect, there will be questions asked by the teacher. If we are going to do student-centered approach, the learners will take and drive the lesson. But the questions, the guiding questions, the leading questions, the key inquiry questions will be asked by the teacher. And if you look at our curriculum design, we have the key inquiry questions in every topic. These ones are meant to ike, they are meant to jab, they are meant to jog the mind of the learners. And in the end of it, let us know to what level are the learners prepared and to what level are they unprepared. Then from this point, we achieve very many things. Number one, we assess the existing knowledge of the learners. Number two, we can tell the level of achievement our learners have. And number three, we get to know where we need to come in directing and guiding the learning process. Remember, it develops critical thinking and problem solving. The teacher teaches the possible approach and encourages learner to try various methods and encourage learners. It is okay to miss. It is okay not to get something right. But then learning instills an intrinsic motivation when encouraged in this form, because the confidence of the learners is achieved. They get to talk. With encouragement, they will try harder and better so that they get it next time. Next, this one is a simple demonstration. In grade 4, for instance, our first theme is the family. As an illustration, we'll talk of this teaching approach of questions and inquiry. Remember, we are learning here. You are going to ask the learners the inquiry questions, and together with the learners, we are going to look at the pictures and materials. Under the family, this is vocabulary item and pronunciation that is there. You'll have a digital device, you'll have materials, teaching aids, very, very important. We call them the resources and materials. Let the learners say the words as displayed for us to develop the pronunciation of the words and allow them make correction in the process of pronunciation. Then let the learners write the words and add more of the family members. From this approach alone, you will have realized all the 4 learning skills. The listening skill is developed as the learner listens to the teacher and the recordings that are likely to be presented. The speaking skill is developed through speech and pronunciation of the words. If there's a poem, they can recite, reading aloud and response to the questions. By reading aloud, the reading skill is developed, and by doing the given exercise of writing down the members of the family, we initiate the process of strengthening and developing writing skill in our learners. Very important. Next, this one is a very interesting, and it is the best to be used when you have learners who lack confidence. It makes them develop instant confidence. Flipped classroom is a case where the homework is given intentionally. The intentional case is this one. It is a preparation for the lesson to come and not as an extra work. Today is on Thursday. I have my lesson slated for Friday tomorrow, and I'm going to teach learners in grade 5 the children rights and responsibilities. My question is simple. I'll go to class today on Thursday and inform learners that tomorrow our lesson will be on child rights and responsibility. As my learners go home, I'll give the question, to what level of age are children's rights covered? So children are covered in Kenya to what age? What are some of the rights of the children? What can children do in case their rights are violated? And what are some of the vocabulary items talking about the child rights and responsibilities? Now, learners go home. They have a task to perform. They have to find out all these answers. They have to come to school having done research, got the answers, and present it the following day. In my class, moving forward, Titus, in my class, it will be a different case, that learners will already have the knowledge of what we are going to learn. And this one will and present a strong confidence in learners that when you ask, what are some of the children's rights, the learners who had gone ahead and learned something will be competing with their hands up to respond to the question because they already know. When you present and write the words like violate, you bring the words like rights, you get the word like justice and fair as vocabulary items, they sound and ring bells to the learners because they are already common words. Through the process, the class will focus on the analysis, evaluation, and creating, while learners will have been focused and achieved understanding, comprehension, and understanding of the words, the comprehension. They will have remembered the words and they will have understood the words. So as a class and as a teacher, you will guide the process of analysis. You will guide the process of evaluation. You ask the question and they respond. In the end of it, you develop a move and a learning that is child-friendly, very interesting, confidence high up, and learners will love the lesson. Next, we have cooperative learning. Colleague teachers, these ones are the methods I have used in the 844 system. They have worked for me, but they are the ones recommended for the CB system. So it means that whoever sat and came up with the CBC was in line and knew what is very important and what will make learning enjoyable. A happy learner achieves more than a tensed learner. The environment created makes the difference. I taught at a school called Chumo Educational Center in Kericho. And in 2010 and 2011, managed to produce the top score nationally. That is before I came to Kabarak. I made a shift. Of course, that was a different environment. We were national best. I came to Kabarak and have achieved the national best together with the team I have in the English department. Because of these approaches we have, the change of attitude, the involvement of the learner, and the teaching process that is interesting and it is fulfilling. We have cooperative learning. Well-used cooperative learning, or commonly known as group work, is perfectly effective. But it is not just ordinary groups. As teachers, what is our role in the group work? And what creativity can you help, inject in to make group work interesting, to make group work more effective, to make group work for you? Remember, group work involves a lot of teacher participation and learner participation, but the learning is purely a learner's affairs. The teacher will go around responding to questions, giving guidance, moderating the whole process, and having class control. Imagine a case of think, pair, share groups. This is initiating small groups. Sometimes we have language groups. In my class, all the grades I teach, I do have English groups. In the CBC, our arrangement system is that learners sit in a group system facing one another because a lot of it has to be done by them through collaboration, consultation, communication. Now, think of a think, pair, share groups where we have a few learners, one or two, or maybe three discussing together. And then after having 2, 3, or 4 of them, after they have finished discussion, move these learners and redistribute them in different groups to meet different partners. Then allow them to share the information that they have learned from their previous groups. Remember, all these ones will be moving from different groups of discussion. So when they come together in a jigsaw and have a different groups coming this point, the one child A will be bringing in information from group A. Child B from group B will be bringing in a new information. Child C will be bringing in another one. They bring it together and we develop, making better what is already existing in our case. Isn't learning so interesting and beautiful with that? It is. Example, in a cooperative learning system, let's say in my case, I will be teaching pronunciation and vocabulary item, grade 4, family celebrations. Remember, family celebrations is different from family. This is unit 2. The basics here is the celebration and not the family. I will ask learners to look up the meanings of words in groups. So these are some of the vocabulary items that we are going to use. We talk of birthday, we can talk of a wedding, groom, bride, and all that. Then ask the student to use the words in a sentence, constructing sentences in their small groups in a jigsaw. So I will restructure the groups to have them share the knowledge. And then later on, I can make an assessment by giving a short passage with extracted words and phrases for them to fill in. This lesson will still manage to have all the 4 language skills. So as the students look up the meanings of the words and the observation, there is a skill that they develop. As they listen to the teacher's instruction, we have listening skills. As they discuss with others in their construction, in their groups, of course, we know the skills we are developing. Speaking skills come out of that. When these learners write what they have already got, that is writing skills. And when they use the words in a sentence, of course, the writing skills are developed in that case. But when they speak aloud of the words that they share, we have speaking skills. In the end of it, we have one lesson, all the 4 language skills used. The learning is taken back to learners and the achievement is perfect. The teacher can only assess to what level have we attained our achievement. Going forward, colleague members, you will have to remember a strong quote by one person I do follow, that the best teachers are not those teachers who teach from the books, but they're the teachers who teach from the heart. What we do as our level and creativity is enough to make a change in the lives of the learners and spur success irrespective of what we have. Now, If I still have a few minutes, Titus and Mike, if you allow me, I still have a few minutes. I'll make two more examples in this case. My teaching of language items. Remember, language items are part of what we have. Now, we have got vocabulary items and pronunciation. Then after the vocabulary items and the pronunciation, there is grammar and language items before we go to writing. Grade 4, family celebration. The language item of our concern there is regular and irregular nouns. When we go to grade 4, that is the family, that is theme 1, the language items we have are the articles. So let me give an example of how we are going to ensure that the theme is advanced in the language use. I am teaching articles. Now, teaching articles, we know all the articles we have, and then. But my approach will be different to the learners. When I go to class, I will construct sentences. An aunt of mine came yesterday to visit us. Auntie Jennifer, yes, was with an uncle of mine. So we talk of an aunt, we talk of an uncle. The aunt who came yesterday brought me a new pair of shoes. She carried the shoes in an orange bag. Uncle Jeff has an old bulldog. The son to the old man came yesterday. Now, we are teaching articles, an, and they. When I have this one flashed and shared among the learners and let them write, I'm going to get the words of the family members: an aunt, a son, a daughter, an uncle. Now, besides identification of these vocabulary items, I am teaching articles. So we shall allow learners to identify and see how an or a or they is used in a sentence. Let you not be cheated. These learners are very, very intelligent. They have the ability to identify that an is used before word starting with vowel sounds and letters. They will identify that they, when you talk of the aunt who came yesterday brought me, they know that they has used, will be used before the aunt and not an, because the aunt has already been mentioned. Now, when we go around making an explanation of this, we end up achieving the purpose. The examples we are using of the daughter, the son, and uncle, and aunt, and the vocabulary items we learned in the first theme, family members. So all these things are intertwined. In the process of learning the family items, we expand the theme. The theme is expanded in the language used through the examples. When we make writing, it will be done the same. And in the end of it, we have the final item. Up to that, colleague teachers, we are still moving on. Something very important, it has been very important in English, and it will still be very important in content, in perception, in reception, are the language components of English structure. The accuracy basis, where we have the spelling of words, where we have the punctuation, and where we have the tenses, where we have the vocabulary. In CBC class, my lessons always start with the spelling dictation. And not only CBC, long before CBC, all my lessons start with the spelling. Why? It induces confidence in learners, brings about startling and accuracy of language use. So, how do you initiate the spelling? Spelling dictation as the first bit of the starting. Whenever we are teaching vocabulary and sound, let the words be used for spelling dictation. And when you go to reading, there's still the words in comprehension. When you move ahead, you develop the theme and you arm the child with the most important language items, language skills, language components. If that one is done, success is our portion.
Ladies and gentlemen, I would like you to join me in thanking Mr. Omondi. I know we can't hear you, but just clap wherever you are, or click your fingers, or stamp your feet, or anything else. I'm sure Mr. Omondi will feel it from where he is. So thank you. I can see Mr. Uko there and various people congratulating him. Very good, very good, very good. Asante sana. Mr. Omondi, I really appreciate the nature of the presentation you've given. I can feel the passion of you as a teacher, and I'm sure your colleagues will agree. We want to open for questions and answer so that people can ask Mr. Omondi a couple of questions and Mr. Omondi can respond. I want, before doing that, to take about 2 minutes to just give you a small synopsis. I don't know if synopsis is the right word, but to give you a small presentation about the CBC app so that you can prepare your questions. You can type your questions on the chat, and I can see very many comments coming in. Carol, Advent Hill, Principal, Collins, etc. on the chat, congratulating you, Mr. Omondi. So if you are unable to speak, then you can type your questions in the chat and we will read. If you're able to speak, however, and turn on your camera, that would be good. We'll really appreciate. And Mr. Omondi will be able to respond. So I want to request just for about a minute, I'll give you a very, 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 very brief presentation about what this CBC app does, just so that you understand who are these people, because you're seeing this thing is hosted by CBC app. So just to give you a rough idea about who exactly we are, okay? So I'll share my screen. Give me 1 minute. Give me 1 minute. Okay. If you can see my screen, maybe Daniel or anyone else whose camera is on, you can give me a thumbs up if you can see your screen. Okay, Daniel, thank you. Asante sana. So CBC app is a simplified assessment and record keeping tool. It really does that. It just helps you teachers to simplify all the processes of assessment. How did it come to be? And it's created by us at Verb Education. I'll talk about us just in a minute. So how does it work? You do these things. You have your assessment books, which you fill in every day. And they come associated with a lot of work. Some of you still do it manually. Some of you use the books, which actually are a very good innovation, but they still represent a lot of work. So to solve that problem, we created this app, the solution. Basically, your curriculum designs in an app, a very simple app that you can access online in order to enable you to be able to do your assessment. So when you navigate to your strand, substrand, the activity, and then you basically key in you basically mark out whether a student is meeting expectations or below expectations, etc. If it takes you half an hour to get all to assess all your books, like you get a book, you open the page, you mark, you get the next book. With the app, it takes you very few minutes. And we could even hear from some of the teachers who are already using it. And then it has reports. It has really good reports that are there in the app, really good reports that enable you to do very good things. You can use it as an individual, you as an individual teacher, or you can use it as a school. So if you invite us to your school, then we can set it up for your school so that all the data goes to one place in your school. We have several schools that are now using the app, even though it's still really growing. And if I could show you, for example, I don't know if you can still see my screen. Something has changed in the screen. Can Mr. Daniel, has something changed? Can you give me a thumbs up? Has it changed? Okay. Yeah, you can see, for example, this is a school. I just removed the name of the school. Like last term, the term that ended in December, they performed 1431 assessments. And this was a school that was just using it for the first time. So for the first time ever, you can count the number of those assessment activities that you do in a term, all of you in a school. So that school did a total of 1431. And you can see who performs the highest. You can also get to see the breakdown of your students, who is below expectations, who is meeting expectations, etc. And you can also get reports about your teachers. So like this is a teacher's name, which I don't want to show. And you can see that somebody has performed 15 assessments. Another teacher has performed 99 assessments. Another teacher has performed 63. Even some are on 238 assessments. So it really depends on the levels of activity among the various teachers. So I don't want to dwell beyond here. I just want to inform you about who we are. Please write down those phone numbers so that you can get in touch with us after this training if you need to get in touch with us. We'd really appreciate you to get in touch with us. So just write down those numbers. And finally, as you write down those numbers, I want to share something on the chat. I want to share a link on the chat. I want to share a link. And where is it? 1 minute. There we go. Okay, so I want to share a link. And in this link, I'm sharing it on the chat here. Link, I'm calling it link. So take a look at it on the chat. It's a simple link that asks you to basically write your name and also to rate this training that has happened today and tell us about your school, etc. And then we get in touch with you after this. Now, so let's take your questions. I don't want to take the time that you teachers would want to use to ask the questions. This session is for you. So I'd want to welcome the questions right now. Okay. So whoever has a question, you can turn on your microphone or raise your hand or whichever thing and come up and give us a question. If not, you can type your questions on the chat. We have a few minutes for that. Collins.
Yes, thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
It was a good presentation from Mr. Omondi. That we have learned a lot. I think I don't have questions by now.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Okay, Mr. Diama. Okay. Yeah, yes, Vespers Yugi.
Kindly, sir. Some of us were not able to join on time.
Okay.
Could you please share with us the recording?
Yes. I'll be speaking about how we will share this right now.
All right.
Okay, I'll be speaking about it. Thank you, Vespers. Anyone else? Mr. Daniel Musa, I am always very happy to see you. I don't know if you are able to greet these people here today. Okay, as Daniel comes up, Mr. Oko, Robert Oko.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yeah.
I got in time.
Actually, the presentation, I can say it was wow. Today, I don't have a lot of questions, but I've learned a lot, especially on the teaching methods, where we had the flipped classrooms of giving homework intentionally so that when the learners come tomorrow, they have already know some of the knowledge about the tomorrow's lesson. So, up to Mr. Omondi, have learned a lot too. Thank you.
Okay, very good, very good. Yeah, I'm happy you've highlighted something specific. Yeah, Mr. Daniel Musa, I can see your camera is on. Please unmute so that we can hear you. Yeah.
I think you can hear me.
Yes, sir.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
I want to apologize because I was not able to join the meeting in time. In fact, I had a challenge with the power.
Okay.
I had to rush from school to my place of work. You can see this is my cyber.
Okay.
So I had to join late.
Okay.
Very much sorry. But what I can say,
Yeah.
the app is very helpful. I think you have seen my comments, and I'm very sincere. And I hope the today's meeting was very helpful to the members who joined.
Yeah.
And I pray that you continue selling the app to
Yeah.
other schools so that it can be helpful. Like now we are facing out the 844.
Yeah.
The app will be very useful to the schools. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Daniel. And the reason I'm really highlighting Mr. Daniel Musa is he is one of the very first people who signed up for the app, and he uses it as an individual, and he's used it all through. And that's why I'm always very happy to see him, because I know behind the scenes there's always somebody who is trying the app, and if there's a problem, he'll tell us, and if there's an improvement to be made, he'll always inform us. So I'm always happy to hear from you, Mr. Musa. Yeah. But maswali za Kiingereza or questions related to English, tafadhali, teachers. We can have one more question, and then we go towards ending. Mwalimu Geoffrey Uma, I can see you want to connect to audio. Yeah, or anyone else, tafadhali. Paula Dera says, thank you very much, Mr. Omondi, for sharing this game-changing tips. He's saying that on the chat. Anyone else? Okay, so yeah, I don't know if anyone else has anything to add. If not, I would like to leave Mr. Omondi to give us some closing remarks. And then we sort of can make one final announcement and we can close.
Yes, thank you so much, Mike. Colleague teachers, it is my pleasure that you are satisfied with my presentation. A few questions that we are going to give as we seek to better our level at the moment. One other thing I have to say is that teaching and teaching of a language, there's more to it than just chalk and talk. CBC is a great movement. It is a milestone until you understand it. Some of us at first were also skeptical about it, but later on we came to learn that this is the best direction for us. We can only embrace it and learn better skills so that we are there when we are supposed to be there. Otherwise, colleague teachers, I'm a teacher at Kabarak. I want to believe Mike will share my number. Someone wanted to contact me. And learning is a lifelong process. We can always help one another. I told you our achievement at some point as a teacher of English in KCP level, we had a group of the legendary teachers in Kenya. Some of you who have not joined, it is always good to be part so that we can help to nurture others. When some of us are out, we want people to come and fill the spaces that we have. And I know we have got new members in the profession. We have got those people who are starting. At some point in 2008, 2009, we were also new in this field. And we can always interact so that in the end of it, we do the best because iron sharpens another iron.
Sawa. So asanteni sana to all of you. And we really want to end in time, which we have. Tomorrow we have Kiswahili by one of the best teachers of Kiswahili also around. So I don't know if we have a link already. No, we'll have a link tomorrow morning, but we already have Kiswahili. We'll have a similar training for Kiswahili tomorrow. So we're also very excited to be part of that. Tell your colleagues if you're interested, get in touch with us via WhatsApp and ask for the Kiswahili link. So the WhatsApp number that you used, that you received our communication from, you can just text back and ask for the Kiswahili link, and you'll get the Kiswahili link as well for tomorrow. So, otherwise, walimu, asanteni sana. I want to wish you the absolute best. I want to wish you God's blessings, all the best in everything you are planning to do, in everything you're doing, and a lot of health. And asanteni sana. See you next time. We'll invite you for subsequent trainings. So, good. So, asanteni. So we can wave at each other as we end this. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Seleka, unakimbia. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. CBC.
Oh,